Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen and fellow shareholders. I'm John Strowger, Chairman of Skellerup Holdings Limited. Thank you for joining us. We're delighted that we can meet both in person with those of you able to be present and by video with shareholders joining online. This is the 22nd annual meeting of Skellerup Holdings Limited. The notice of meeting and 2023 annual report have been circulated and made available to all shareholders. You can also access these at any time via our website. As noted, today's meeting is being held as a hybrid meeting here at Eden Park and online via the Computershare online meeting platform. If you're online, congratulations, you've successfully negotiated entry. No mean feat. Before we commence the formal business, I should advise those present that in the event of an emergency, please remain calm and follow the clearly marked signs to the exit of the building safely, which I presume is over there. I'm pleased to advise that there being a quorum of shareholders present, I declare the annual meeting open. To begin, I'd like to take this opportunity to introduce you to those people alongside me today. On my immediate right, who possibly needs no introduction, is David Mair, our Chief Executive and a Director of the company. Alongside David, another man who probably needs no introduction, Graham Leeming, Chief Financial Officer. Alongside Graham is Alan Isaac, an Independent Director. On my left is David Cushing, an Independent Director.
Afternoon.
And alongside David is Rachel Farrant. And alongside Alan is Paul Shearer. Apologies, Paul. Also in attendance with us today are representatives of our auditors, Ernst & Young, and our legal advisors, Chapman Tripp. A number of our leaders across the Skellerup Group are here today, and David will introduce them later on. To talk then about the order of events. The order of events for today will be as follows. First, I will take you through highlights of Skellerup's past year, and I'll then hand over to David to give a presentation as Skellerup's Chief Executive. I will provide an opportunity for questions at this point on my address and David's presentation. I'll then put the resolutions outlined in the notice of meeting. We will cover each resolution in turn and invite questions specific to those resolutions. There will then be an opportunity for any discussion by shareholders on Skellerup's business and performance. For online attendees, you may submit a question at any time. To do so, select the Q&A tab on the right half of your screen, type your question into the field and press send. Your question will immediately be submitted. Should you require assistance, you can type your query and one of the Computershare team will assist and reply via the chat function. Alternatively, you may call Computershare on 0800 650 034. Please note that while you can submit your questions from now on, I will not address them until a relevant time in the meeting. Please note that your questions may be moderated, and if we receive multiple questions on one topic, amalgamated together. Finally, due to time constraints, we may run out of time to answer all of your questions. If this happens, we will answer them in due course by email. To turn to voting. Voting today will be conducted by way of a poll on all items of business. For those in attendance, you should all have a voting paper which was given to you when you registered. If you do not, can you please indicate that now by raising your hand, and a member of the Computershare team will be here to assist you. We're all enfranchised? Good. For those online, I now declare voting open on all items of business. If you are eligible to vote at this meeting, you will be able to cast your vote under the Vote tab on your screen. To vote, simply select your voting direction from the options shown on screen. You can vote for all resolutions at once or by each resolution in turn. Your vote has been cast when a tick appears. To change your vote, simply select Change Your Vote. You have the option to change your vote up until the time I declare voting closed. I will give you a warning before I move to close voting. That's the procedure out of the way for now. Turning now to my address to shareholders in relation to FY23 highlights. The obvious highlight is the achievement of yet another record-breaking net profit of $50.9 million on $33.5 million of revenue. The slide which Graham has just held up behind me details some of the metrics over the last 7 years. It's a record we're proud of. This outcome was founded on the usual pillars you've now heard us talk about many times. We still work closely with customers to identify and develop enduring solutions to their commercial problems. We are still supplying stay-in-business componentry to a range of customers in agricultural and broader industrial applications. And we still supply critical componentry to our OEM customers, which, once embedded in their products, is very hard to shift. None of this ever happens overnight. Winning a customer's confidence for the supply of critical componentry to its business takes time, often a lot of time. Success can arrive gradually around here, but once it does, it tends to be sticky. This is not to suggest that any of this is taken for granted. It never is. In this world of constant change, stopping is not an option. We've told you before about the intellectual capability, which is our outstanding team, many of which, as I've said, are sitting in front of me, and whom David will introduce shortly. As I note in my annual report review, the capability of our people is as much an asset of the group as the bricks and mortar, and according to some people, the leases, which are reported in the balance sheet. In FY23, the recurring themes and challenges for us were cost escalation, destocking, and working capital management. On cost escalation, input costs, including natural and synthetic rubbers, a key manufacturing input for us, continued to escalate and were slow to abate. Freight and capacity shortfalls did not uniformly ease off. As an exporter to and around the world, Skellerup is a significant purchaser of freight services. We have people dedicated to managing this cost item. At times it feels like we are a logistics company without a revenue line. I'm pleased to say that we are experiencing some relief in this area now, but for most of the year, FY23 bore the brunt. Wage pressure in response to inflation pressures grew across the group. We all know about that. We have looked to pass on these cost increases to our customers where possible. The record net profit reports might suggest that that's been successful, but it's not as simple as that. As David will explain further, we continually look to refine our manufacturing processes for cost savings through process efficiencies and look for opportunities in product lines with improved margins. We've made progress, but the quest continues. Turning to the phenomenon which is destocking, it turned out that COVID, for our business, like many others, delivered a sugar hit of early revenues as our customers, responding to the same freight and logistics challenges we were experiencing throughout the pandemic, brought forward orders to mitigate the risk of shortfall in stock or critical components. This was particularly obvious in the first half of the FY23 financial year. In February this year, we reported a first half net profit of 23 million, which was actually down on the result for the same period in the previous year. So there has been significant catch-up going on. Also, and while we enjoyed the initial uplift in orders brought forward by COVID, it has frankly proved difficult to predict demand going forward. Our experience has been that some pockets of customer demand have been extremely lumpy, and this experience continues. Of course, we are not immune to the circumstances that motivated customers to pull forward orders. We had to do the same, and so the level of working capital we had to carry increased materially, peaking around the half year for FY23. We are back to satisfactory levels of stock after a concerted focus by year end. And we have to keep a rigorous eye, of course, on the receivables position and stock obsolescence. But we are confident we're in a good position. But it is something that required heightened attention throughout FY23. It helped that we're not carrying high levels of debt. This meant we can make decisions in relation to the business that are not influenced or compromised by capital constraints or financial covenants. And we can distribute a high proportion of our free cash flow in the form of dividends to shareholders. As we should. After all, you are the owners. The full dividend of 22 cents per share paid in respect of FY23 is a record. Before I turn to the year ahead, which David will cover in more detail, I'd like to touch briefly on a governance question which we seem to encounter year after year here at Skellerup. And this is the weighty issue of director independence. As noted in our annual report, your board considers the status of all directors from the perspective of independence annually, having regard to the NZX Corporate Governance Code and listing rules. At its essence, the rules require a consideration of factors which might interfere with a director's capacity to bring independent judgment to bear on issues before the board and to act in the best interest of the company and represent the interests of the shareholders generally. The code lists factors which may be relevant to this determination. These factors include holding a significant shareholding in the company, connection with a professional services firm which delivers services to the company, and directors with a long tenure. All of these factors have had or do have possible application to the Skellerup board. We've considered these factors having regard to the objective, the point of the rules, which is the ability to exercise independent judgment and act in the best interests of the company and all its shareholders. We have determined that all directors are independent, with the exception of David Mair, of course. We're very comfortable that the standards of independence and decision-making integrity are not compromised by that conclusion. We are, however, aware of certain commentators and agencies that seem to misread the above factors as determinative of non-independence. For example, if you are a large shareholder, you can't be independent. We reject that line of thought. The concept is, and ought to be, a more sophisticated one than that. I mention this because it is a consideration we seem burdened with every year, and I wanted to record my position on this topic. This is not an academic point. We have proxy solicitation houses making voting recommendations based on their classification of independence. For example, and as a consequence of classification as a non-independent, based on my former role as a partner of our legal service provider, 30% of votes were cast in respect of the resolution securing my reappointment in 2021 were cast against. Not ideal from my perspective. This despite me having no involvement in or even awareness of the provision of legal services. And fortunately, the quantum of the fees paid to my former firm being immaterial and so translating to nil pecuniary advantage for me. The notion that any of us are motivated by extraneous factors in discharging our duties for this board I regard as frankly bemusing. Your entire board takes a special interest in Skellerup. The ethos of this business and its proud history really do get under your skin. Anyway, I feel better for recording those observations. Turning to the future, we do see FY 2024 as more of the same here at Skellerup. Perhaps it has always been that way. Flashy initiatives are not for us. But if we could find a good, fairly priced, synergistic business in a market where we have growth aspirations, that's every market, but in particular in the US, we would give it careful consideration. We're also looking to progress initiatives towards in-market manufacturing. With 35% of our FY23 revenues there, the US is an obvious market. Shareholders can rest assured that none of these initiatives will be pursued without careful thought and planning. Of course, there is nothing imminent here to announce, but I wanted to articulate these goals to force us to review progress against them in a year's time, even if there is none. Another initiative that looms large for your board in the forthcoming year is ESG reporting requirements, which become mandatory from FY24. We see this as an opportunity to become more transparent about current practices at Skellerup and as a catalyst to further change, where the potential for further improvement is identified. The initiatives we are undertaking in this area will seek to challenge the status quo. And of course, we will continue to forge enduring relationships with our customers in the Skellerup way, business as usual, the bedrock of Skellerup's success. In that regard, there are product rollouts in significant markets for some of our customers, which should underpin revenue growth this year. Earlier today, we announced to the NZX guidance for the FY24 year of NPAT in the range 50 to 55 million. In doing so, we noted the lower than expected sales in the Agri division year to date. That shouldn't surprise anyone. The Industrial division is, though, trading in line with expectations. We expect sales growth in both divisions in the balance of 2024, noting we have 9 months to go. That's a long time, and the global environment isn't exactly stable. But this is our considered view of what the business will do right now, and that's what guidance is supposed to be. As I noted in the annual report, these year-on-year records get increasingly hard to beat, and inevitably there will be a year where we do not. But shareholders will, I'm sure, appreciate that here at Skellerup we are, as has been said before, in it for the long haul. Our history is one of quiet achievement and incremental and sustainable rather than flashy growth, as befits our origins. I'd like to thank and congratulate the entire team at Skellerup for their contribution to the FY23 record result. We are the beneficiary of a loyal and stable workforce, including in the senior ranks. It's a comfortable experience for your board to present these record results to you, but success here genuinely has many parents. Thank you for your continuing support in Skellerup. Mr. Mayor, the floor is yours.
Thanks, John. I'd like to begin by introducing some of the team. So when I call your name, please stand up and I'll give a brief note. So first of all, Guy Muley. He's a Taranaki boy originally. I think he's been with Skellerup for about 8 years. He's in charge of the vacuum systems group. He took over DEX North America, which was a wake-up call. Interesting review process with Guy. The first time we did a review together on a completely different business model. He obviously succeeded. He's still here. And he now runs DEX North America and DEX Europe. So he's done a very, very good job, and it's great to see him here at the shareholders meeting. And beside him, we have Logan McKenzie. So Logan really is the international market support for vacuum systems. He's a very good designer. He's a hands-on operator of equipment like lathes and things like that. So if you want something done, he can turn that around very, very quickly. I believe it's 36 years service, is that right? Yeah, so 36 years service at Skellerup. He used to have Peter Beck reporting to him, just out of interest. And famously, once he improved the performance of a pump in China by taking a corrugated cardboard carton and bending it around the pump. You can follow through on these after I present. But here's the interesting thing. Martin Lee, our Chinese manager, charged him for the carton. There you go. So, thanks. Pat Crotty. So, Pat has been the general manager for Gulf Rubber Australia, and just very recently, he's accepted a position to be the general manager for Ultralong Group. And so, of course, he's based in Sydney. Ultralong Group there's some sales through Gulf Rubber Australia, but it's really centred here in Auckland, but also has a big opportunity in the US. So we're delighted to see Pat take on that opportunity, and I'm sure he'll be very successful. Thanks, Pat. We have Richard Kosman. So Richard does a number of things for the business. In particular, from my point of view, he focuses a lot on health and safety for the broader group, but specifically he's the operations manager for Ultralon and will now report to Pat, or now reports to Pat. So I've known Richard for too long, and so I won't mention how long, but we worked in a previous company and a very solid supporter of good process. Thanks, Richard. And then we have Sean Spacey. Sean is in charge of the development team for a lot of our OEM product, particularly into the US market. He's been around quite a long time, but very clever, very insightful in terms of some of the products that you can see down the end. And so we won a number of very important OEM customers in the US through his development of particular processes and technique, and so done a fantastic job with his team. So he is based in Auckland. Then recent acquisition, we acquired Talbot. So Mike Draper is the business unit manager at Talbot. That's a relatively new acquisition. Some of you have made comments about the equipment on the table there. One is there's the parking meter stuff. Someone said they didn't like that. I think it was Stuart Jury. I don't like the wind cave machine. That's when my wife uses the credit card and money goes out of my bank account. But there's some interesting technology over there. So please feel free, of course, to talk to these people afterwards. We have a young leader, Bhargav Dave. He's running Skellerup Rubber Services, another engineer, so smart young person, and doing a great job of not just processes, but actually visiting customers. So one of the things that I think Skellerup is very good at doing is developing people that not only have strength internally, but also they can deal with customers and work on customer lock-in and things like that. So good to see you, Bhargav. We have Dino Kudras. So Dino and Jane, the next one, they are from the Agri division in Christchurch. So Dino's relatively new. He's in charge, the head of product and process development in Christchurch. He's got a very interesting way of thinking. I'm very hard on engineers. I used to study engineering like decades ago, maybe even half a century ago. And so I have a particular interest in how engineers think. This guy is really clever, so very impressive. And so looking forward to working with him. And then we have Jane. Head of Customer Experience and Marketing, Jane's been doing a fantastic job, particularly on pricing. So as you heard from John in his presentation, one of the things we've had to do where raw materials have moved, we've had to get our pricing right. And so you can understand how difficult that is, even in the system. And so Jane has done a fantastic job over the last couple of years. We have a couple of people from the head office. So my boss, people think John's my boss, and he probably is, but Laura at the back, she's our EA. So that's at the back, so you have to look around. We also have Tim Runnels, who's going to moderate those hard questions so that we answer them afterwards if we need to. And we have a young, relatively recent hire, business analyst Ryan Zare. I think you've been here 4 weeks, 5 weeks, something like that anyway. So
Holiday for one of them.
yeah, that's right. So who signed off his leave? Come on. Anyway, so look, that's some of the team. So I just want to talk a little bit about the results, and then I'll come back, because people ask me now, I don't know where this expression came from, but people are asking me about the secret sauce of Skellerup. So I'll give you a very brief insight into that. So first I'd like to just review a few thoughts on the slides. So we're very proud, not just me. Our full team is proud of the fact that for 7 years, we've delivered 7 years of compound annual growth rate in revenue and 14% compound annual growth rate in profit. It's not easy, and it's not luck. So how have we achieved those results? Well, the first answer is you see many of the people sitting in front of you. So it's not directly me in that sense, or us. It's a collective approach to things like customer focus and really understanding customer needs. Okay, so I'll move on to an explanation of the secret sauce. So really, through a clarity of purpose, and I'm a purpose guy, and then execution of our strategy and business plans, we are getting better alignment of our entire workforce to improving processes. Everyone can make a difference. As we focus on improving processes, the outcomes, the numbers get better. So we focus on the process and the numbers get better. We don't just look at the numbers. What does that mean? We are confident that despite market setbacks and volatility, we should be able to improve our business profits 5% a year, every year going forward. So that provides a platform for organic growth. On top of that, we have 4 or 5 larger initiatives that hopefully will give us the lift to something like the profit we've been experiencing over the last 7 years or even longer. Some of you will recognize that as a very Japanese approach called Kaizen. I'm a big fan of Kaizen. So there's a quote there from Warren Buffett. This had a big impact on me because although it was written by Warren Buffett, it's very common in Japan to see these statements. So I'll just read it. If we are delighting customers, eliminating unnecessary costs, improving our products and services, we gain strength. On a daily basis, the effects are imperceptible. Cumulatively, though, their consequences are enormous. When our long-term competitive position improves as a result of these almost imperceptible actions, we describe the phenomenon as widening the moat. The moat isn't fixed. So when you have the opportunity to talk to some of our people here today, they can talk about the actions they take to improve our barriers to entry. They're not fixed. We're working on them all the time. That's what we mean by widening the moat. Okay, there's a useful other way of thinking about things. So it's called the smile curve. So as always, steal with pride. This is from Stan Shee, who used to chair ASA. And he found this a useful way of thinking about things. The left-hand side, which has concept R&D at the top, the left-hand side is really about a unique, differentiated product strategy. And the right-hand side is very much around the service side of the business. We want the smile to get bigger. We actually want it to move to the right a little bit and then go up. And we want a big, deep smile. We get that bigger by adding more value. You can see the axis is adding value by innovating both product and service. We can't do that just with existing products. And that's why I'm so excited about people like Guy and Dino and others creating these new products. So the combination of the two, differentiated product and highly differentiated service, is an opportunity to demonstrate our value to the customers and lock them in. We often discuss internally the concept of customer lock-in. Of course, what we mean is that a customer locks us in. We don't lock them in, they choose to work with us. And we have some very good examples we've explained in the past, and they're explained in our annual report. There's case studies there of Moen and companies that have chosen us. And in many cases, we have been, for a period of time, successful as a sole supplier. So when it comes to these negotiations on price and things, it's always interesting, but it sure helps if you haven't got competition, too much competition. Every customer wants to feel special. We help our customers to become more competitive by focusing on their unique wants and needs and help them make more money. That's why they like us so much. So if you get a chance, if you want to talk about the OEM or lock-in and those, the others understand it, but I suggest you talk in particular to either Guy or Pat or Dino, I introduced earlier. Okay, the US market. So John signalled, and we agree, not just from a revenue point of view, the US is the prize. It's the big market opportunity, and it's pleasing to see that our revenue is now 35% of our total sales. So we've signalled clearly that the US market is key with significant opportunities. One outcome is that we believe that greater in-market manufacturing and distribution capability will be necessary to meet ever-increasing customer demands. So one way of thinking about that is we should aim to have processes that are globally competitive. That means lowest cost. It is then a question of where to run those processes, and the recent trends strongly suggest you do that in market close to your customers. In order to progress that initiative, one thing we've done is we partnered to make a range of infrastructure pipe rings for our customers, McWane and US Pipe in the US. So we're testing the market. I mean, our customers say, we want you to manufacture in market, but of course there's a price difference, so we'll see. But we've made a lot of progress on that. We have also moved to full ownership of Simlin, now part of the Gulf US business. That provides us with tooling and production capability for liquid silicone rubber products. This capability has applications not only with existing customers, but also in many areas of new business, particularly medical components. We are preparing parts of our business with sales into the US to be ready for this in-market manufacture, in particular, food-grade dairy rubberware. We are doing that by investing in and developing standard equipment and focusing on our approach to tooling in particular. We also have exciting opportunities with new products and customers, including a large customer in the hygiene market who are launching their new dispensing equipment in November 2023. And if you want to discuss that further, please talk to Sean with the glasses on. He's been a big part of that. Okay, so just in general, the last 12 months has seen some significant milestones for Skellerup. In November last year, Dex Australia celebrated their 75th anniversary with an event in Melbourne. In June this year, I had the privilege of attending Skellerup Jiangsu's 20th anniversary, so that's our Chinese factory in Baochong in Jiangsu province. And just last week, Red Band reached 65 years. 65 years, wow. Skellerup is an international confederation of businesses run from a small head office. We have 8 people with 2 working part-time. We want the resources to be in the businesses, and we hold the leaders accountable to delivering EBIT. The total cost of the head office was New Zealand dollars 5.6 million in FY23, including directors' fees, salaries, NZX fees, external reporting costs, shareholder communications, etc., rent, a few other things. A real bargain for shareholders. I would like to thank the board for their support. All our directors are shareholder focused. They're business savvy. They have a particular interest in Skellerup, as John mentioned. They probe, they question, but they're very supportive of what we're doing, and they're part of our winning team. Their relevant skills and experience provide the support for Graham and me to make fast decisions, and where appropriate, and provide a sense check to strategic decisions. Finally, at last, I'd like to thank you all, our loyal shareholders. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Before we move to consider the resolutions before the meeting, we will open the floor and to online participants for any questions on the presentations provided by David and myself. A reminder to please state your name and whether you are a shareholder or proxy holder. We'll start with questions from the floor. I'm assured there are a couple of friendly people holding microphones available for you, so if you'd like to pose a question, please just simply raise your hand, that they will find you. It's a race.
Winner.
Thank you. I'm Bruce Parks. I'm a shareholder and proxy holder for the Shareholder Association. Congratulations on your sustainability journey. Can the chair of the Sustainability Committee tell us what she sees as the strengths and opportunities and the threats to our worldwide manufacturing business?
Any thoughts, Rachel?
Right. Well, we're obviously at the start of our journey, as a lot of companies are. There's a lot of opportunities. The focus in the last 12 months has been really around the climate change and the climate change reporting. But within all of our business is a focus on working with recyclable products, looking at waste management, and we've got things. For example, we manufacture recyclable rubbish bins that go to the airports, so those types of things. The opportunities are obviously endless within that market. What we do need to do is take our customers on that journey as well, because often the cost of sustainable products is more expensive and a different price point than less sustainable products. So that's probably the focus, is also taking our customers on that journey. But, we do see it as a significant opportunity going forward.
Are there any threats from different government regulations around the world?
Obviously, New Zealand is, as most people will know, New Zealand is at the forefront of some of this stuff. You only need to travel to somewhere like the US where, there's not the take-up of things like electric cars and that sort of stuff. So I don't think there's a threat from government regulation, but you can't say never. But I think most governments are very much aware that they need to be working with sustainable options for products, and the threat of people regulating stuff, I think is probably a little ways off, especially in the markets that we're working in, because there's not the alternative opportunities at the moment. But it's certainly something that we're very mindful of.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No, he won the race this year.
Thanks. I'm Alan Best, and I'm a shareholder, and my vote's been given to Bruce next door to me. So I'm only really here to ask questions. As a former industrial seller, I'm acutely aware of the length of time it takes in the gestation of a new product, particularly a component product. And I'm sure that David is as well. So I just wonder how you get a feeling for the work in hand of the future, because that's what's going to make us stay shareholders, isn't it? Are we up to standard with that amount of work that we are enjoying at the moment in our development area? Is there a bit of a tail off because the market's getting a bit softer over the last few months? How do you get a feeling for this, and how do you keep your tabs on it as a board?
Look, I can assure you it's the opposite. And Sean Spacey, who's been introduced, runs our Product Development Centre. It's very top of mind for us. Develop or die, but David will speak more to this.
I'll just add a comment, and I encourage you to talk to Sean and Dino, who's doing the same thing in Christchurch. Look, to be honest, we don't look at the market cycle so much. So first of all, we believe in product customer-led product development. So we don't try to create a new product without a committed customer. In fact, a big part of our business model, and the reason it's low cap, and I've explained in previous years, we don't get written contracts necessarily from a customer. What we do get is a big lump of cash and a commitment that they will buy from us. But it's not in writing, but we have their cash and we work with them. So we're part of their development team. So particularly in Sean's area, that's been happening, and I'm confident going forward we can do that in agri as well. But you're right, the battleground is, can you do it faster? So I can tell you we've been adding to the team in Christchurch quite rapidly. The interesting question for Sean and his team is just, it is focusing on that process. If we can speed the process up, we can do it in less time than our competitors. And Sean has some very good anecdotes of things we've done in the past that has won business and kept us. So it's a lead time issue. So it's not just a quantum thing in that sense. And the pleasing thing is we have more opportunities than we can deal with at the moment, and we've been that way for quite a while. So the fact that the market's a bit depressed because someone's destocking or all those things, I mean, that's just markets, isn't it? But our opportunity with what we do well is great, and the bigger opportunity is in the US. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave.
I won't prolong the agony. Tim Rundle's our Group Financial Controller, is our moderator today. Welcome, Tim. Any questions from online?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It feels like I'm going to have a short day at the office here. There's nothing at the moment online.
Okay. Well, you'll get another opportunity under general business.
Thanks. I noticed that since 2015 you had 193 million shares on issue, and today about 196, which is a small growth. Now, David mentioned earlier that you very much go for organic growth, but in the event that you do you actually have a philosophy trying to not issue new shares and prefer to do any acquirements with debt? I mean, is there...
You don't issue them if you don't need to. And if you look at our acquisitions over the last 5 years, they've all been pretty modest, 10 mil or less, and all debt funded. But we're not philosophically opposed to issuing equity. We just need to find something that's large enough to justify that.
Okay, fine.
Hold the press, Tim.
I spoke too soon. We do have a question that's come through from Robert and Catherine Keane and the Keane Family Trust, who are shareholders. The question is to David Mayer. You talked in your address that the USA is a significant growth market. Simlim was an associate up until 31 October 2022 when it became a wholly owned subsidiary. The 7-year financial review showed losses from Simlim until FY20. What are the current year and expected financial performance from Simlim? So what is our outlook for the Simlim business going forward?
I won't answer for a part of the business specifically on the dollars, but we are continuing to invest in this business. One reason is that we see a big opportunity for new medical components, and in order to do that, we have to invest even more capital. I can assure you the board is rigorously scrutinising the investment that Graham and I are promoting, and that we believe will turn into a very good return. A way of thinking about Simlim, it was an opportunity to acquire a business that we could have just done as a project. Let's just get into liquid silicone. It just seemed a faster way of doing it, and we've learnt a lot. And we now have a fantastic facility that luckily Graham and I both visited and had the opportunity. We have a great leader there, Joe Morales. And so we have credibility with key customers. So I'm very confident that we'll grow the revenue and turn this into a very profitable business. Thank you.
It wouldn't be betraying confidence as to say that we approved some CapEx for Simlim this morning.
Yes, a rather small sum of $400,000 US. So we're very confident.
There'll be another opportunity to ask questions under general business. So perhaps we'll now move to the formal resolutions of the meeting, following which there'll be another opportunity to ask questions, as I've said. We have 3 resolutions to be voted on today. The first 2 relating to the re-election of David Cushing and Paul Shearer as directors, and the third resolution being the auditor's fees. I shall give an opportunity for discussion of each resolution, and we will also monitor the online platform for questions. At the appropriate time, should you wish to raise a comment or question, please raise your hand and we'll bring a microphone to you, or submit your question on the online platform. Again, by way of introduction, please advise your name, whether you are a shareholder or a proxy holder, and the name of the shareholder represented. As noted earlier, in accordance with the NZX listing rules, voting will be by poll. Those here at Eden Park should all by now have a voting paper which was given to you when you registered. Again, if you do not, can you please indicate that now by raising your hand? As noted before, online attendees can vote at any time. A number of shareholders have cast a postal vote or have appointed proxies to cast their votes ahead of today's meeting. I advise that the board is holding discretionary proxies which will be voted in favour of all of the resolutions. Resolution number 1, the re-election of David Cushing. In accordance with the company's constitution, David Cushing retires at this meeting and, being eligible, offers himself for re-election. Notwithstanding that he's forgot his tie this morning, the board recommends David to you as a director of Skellerup and unanimously supports his re-election. Before we consider the resolution, I'd like to invite David to briefly speak in support of his election.
Thank you, John. Afternoon, everybody. It's good to see a lot of familiar faces here. Good, loyal shareholders. Good on you. And I've been in Sydney for a few days. I just got to New Zealand, so I actually forgot to pack my tie about 5 days ago. But anyway, that's all good. It's a great pleasure to stand for re-election today at Skellerup. I've been a director for 6 years. How time flies. But I have been very pleased with the progress of the company over the last 6 years. David, Mayor and Graham have done a brilliant job as far as I'm concerned. They've managed the company exceptionally well. And it was, I thought, fitting a year or 2 ago, David was made the CEO. He got the award for New Zealand's top CEO, which was well deserved. And Graham actually got nominated into the top 3 for the best CFO in New Zealand. And can't believe he didn't win the gong. But, we've got highly talented senior management, which is good for all of us. Over the last 6 years, as I say, the progress has been very good. Earnings per share are up over 125%. Dividends are up over 125%. Operating cash flow has been magnificent. We've got virtually no debt. If you look at net debt, it's petty cash. So we're in an extremely strong financial position, which I think in this current world volatility, having very little debt is a great place to be. And my personal favourite, the market cap of the company over the last 6 years has risen by $600 million. And that is an awful lot of money for there are a lot of faces I recognise that were 6 years ago. So I think everyone should be very pleased with the performance of the company over the last 6 years. And the dividends and share price has been great. And good on us. It's been a good ride so far. I'm positive about Skellerup's long-term prospects. There are a couple of reasons why. Number one is the people in the company. David and John they've both touched on the Skellerup people, and from my observation over 6 years, we have got some incredibly talented people in the company, and some of the people which Dave has introduced before, we've got very good management coming through. I think the bench strength has developed a lot over the last 6 years. I think we're actually a lot better positioned today than what we were 6 years ago. We've got world-class executives, very smart, talented, focused on results, and very strategic thinkers. So, I think we should feel good about the quality of management in the company, and the bench strength is very good. The other thing that I want to raise is the USA, and David and John have touched on it as well. I spend probably 3 months in the States a year, so I spend quite a lot of time there. It's a huge opportunity for Skellerup. You know, it's 340 million people. It's like 13 or 14 Australias. It's a great place to do business. And 6 years ago, we sold about $50 million of revenue into the US market. And today it's almost $120 million. You know, I'd hope in 5 years it will be a lot more. It's an enormous market. And if you can just get a little niche and do it well and be a very good supplier and be reliable and do what Sean Spacey's done and deliver some great products, you know, there's a huge potential. And we're actually starting to make connections with some very big multinational corporations in the US and getting some traction. And it does take time, as I think Dave mentioned, and I think this gentleman mentioned with industrial businesses, it takes a long time. But we're on the cusp of doing some really good business, and I'm very positive about the US market. And I've got to say, we've got our top US Guy Muley is here, our top US executive. He has done a brilliant job over the last few years. Very smart guy, building the business, very strategic, and his results have been unbelievable. So it's great to have you here, Guy. So yeah, I'm very excited about the US market for the long term for all of us. I think it's very promising. On a personal note, like I enjoy being a director of the company. I'm focused on results, maximising shareholder value, and I can say all the directors make a really good contribution as far as I'm concerned. Everybody's got their own skill set. But I think everyone works really well together. It's very well balanced, and we love to work with David and Graham. I think we work constructively, and I think the results have been good, and we want to keep it going. So that's probably it for me. But thank you for your support. Thank you.
I now move as an ordinary resolution that David Cushing be re-elected as a director of the company. I will now pause for any questions on this resolution, and will take questions from the floor first. Tim, are there any questions online?
There are no questions online.
There appear to be no questions on that resolution. In accordance with the company's constitution, Paul Shearer retires at this meeting and, being eligible, offers himself for re-election. The board recommends Paul to you as a director of Skellerup and unanimously supports his re-election. Before we consider the resolution, I'd like to invite Paul to briefly talk in support of his re-election. Paul.
Thank you, John. I have got a confession to make. I remembered my tie today. Good afternoon. It's been my privilege to serve on Skellerup's board for the past 3 years. Let me start by thanking both shareholders and my fellow directors for the opportunity to contribute to this iconic company. During this time, I've learned a great deal about Skellerup. It is an impressive company. It has grown a sophisticated international business run by a very committed, high-performing management team, and we've heard quite a lot about them today already. Our business is performing strongly in difficult trading conditions and is well positioned for the future. We have talented people, we have a great company culture, valuable institutional knowledge, strong, enduring customer relationships, and a very robust business model. For the past 2 to 3 years, I've also worked for Fisher & Paykel Healthcare, another iconic New Zealand company with substantial presence in global markets. I have first-hand experience developing, implementing successful and sustainable business growth strategy, and this has included establishing direct sales operations, building an international distribution network, and partnering with OEM customers. It is a challenging time for business, but also with exciting opportunities for growth. My international experience and proven track record fits well with addressing these challenges and supporting Skellerup's international growth strategy. So with the support of shareholders, I would value the opportunity to continue contributing to the ongoing success of the Skellerup business, and I put myself forward for re-election to the board. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. I now move as an ordinary resolution that Paul Shearer be elected as director of the company. Again, are there any questions from the floor? Again, Tim, are there any questions online?
There appear to be no questions online.
There appear to be no further questions. We'll move then to resolution number 3, which is that Ernst & Young are the existing auditors of Skellerup, and pursuant to section 207T of the Companies Act, Ernst & Young are automatically reappointed as directors for the ensuing year. The board seeks the approval of shareholders to be authorised to fix the remuneration of Ernst & Young for the 2024 financial year. I now move as an ordinary resolution that the directors be authorised to fix the remuneration of the auditor for the year ended 30 June 2024. Are there any questions on this resolution from the floor? Are there any questions online?
There are no questions online.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our discussion on the resolutions. If you wish to, I'm sorry to do this to you, but it's necessary procedure. If you wish to vote on the resolutions, whether in person or online, you should now do so, as I will shortly close the voting. For those of you here in the room, after voting, you should place your form in one of the ballot boxes which will be passed around the room. If anyone is unsure as to how to complete the voting form or hasn't got a form, please go to the registration desk where someone will be able to help you. Once all the votes have been cast, they will be counted by the company's share registrar, Computershare. The results of today's meeting will be released to the NZX on completion of verification of voting. I'll now pause to allow you time to finalise your votes. We'll give it 15 seconds. The notes recommend 60, but I don't think that's necessary, Graham. Voting is now closed. I will now ask Computershare to collect the voting papers in the room. That leads us to general business. At this point, we will open the floor to any questions on Skellerup's performance and any other matters shareholders now wish to raise, including questions submitted online during the course of the meeting. A reminder again to please state your name and whether you are a shareholder or proxy holder. I will invite questions from the floor first. Yep. Stand up.
Just a quick comment about the number of shares on issue. I actually applaud you for not issuing a lot of shares. After all, our dividends and our earnings per share come from that factor. There's no point in issuing a lot of shares unnecessarily.
Yep.
Second question or statement, talking about going to the US and the big market, are there some competitors there who you'll have to fight with outrageously or difficultly, or who are the big competitors in the US?
The nature of the niche sort of markets that we're in, most of our competitors are relatively small, but there are competitors there. We think we can, by definition, outcompete them, but that's an opinion. Again, I encourage you to have a chat to people like Sean, but to give you an example, Minnesota Rubber is a company that has recently been acquired by Trelleborg. Trelleborg's a very large Swedish rubber company. We have, over the years, been successful in winning some business from their customers, if that makes sense. But we have an attitude in Skellerup. We don't compete, we eliminate.
Thank you, James.
In the nicest possible way, of course.
In the nicest way.
Tim, are there any questions online under general business?
Mr. Chair, there are no questions online.
Well, that concluding questions and discussion, it's really just for me now to close the meeting. Thank you all for your attendance. I now declare the meeting closed and invite you all to join the directors and management for afternoon tea and refreshments. Many thanks.